Welcome, everyone, to Respawn Aim Fire, a special side quest episode for BARF for the month of May. What does BARF stand for? It's Backlog Accomplishment with Respawn and Friends, where we play some kind of older retro game or classic game or something we really wish we would have gotten to a long time ago, but we didn't for some reason. Voted on by you, our patrons, at patreon.com/respawnaimfire. Hi, my name is Chad Michael Ennis, one of your hosts. We've got our usual co-host here, Adam, put a bow on it, Gumbert. How are you, Adam?
Put it right there on top.
Bows always go on top with Adam. That's it. Nowhere else. And joining us is longtime guest host Alex Kozina. Cozy Bear, how are you?
Yo estoy Alexandro Kozina y me canta Gris.
Ooh! Is that how this is pronounced? Gris?
It is. So, long story short, I'm actually going to be visiting España. I am going to Spain to visit Barcelona, to visit friends and family in just under a week from the recording of this podcast. And as it would happen, Gris was developed by Nomada Studio, which is located in Spain. And so, yes, it is pronounced Gris.
Oh my god. The whole game makes so much more sense. For some reason, I thought it was French, and I've been pronouncing it Gris this whole time. And then I just now looked it up and said, oh, Gris is Spanish for gray, which makes so much more sense in context of the entire game. What an idiot I am.
I didn't realize that's why you were saying it that way. I didn't, because I knew it was a Spanish made game.
I had no idea.
But it's also a word that I don't speak Spanish or French, so I couldn't pronounce it correctly either way. It wouldn't matter to me.
Well, thank you, Alex. That's it. That's all we needed to know. Hope you all enjoyed it.
That's all.
That's wonderful that you're going to be traveling there. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really cool. My first time in Europe, if you can believe it or not.
Ooh, is this your first time out of Canada in general? No, you've been to the U.S.
No, I've been to the U.S. I've been to Argentina, which is where the family members I'm going to be visiting are originally from. And of course, I've been to Japan, but not Europe. Oh. So that'll be exciting.
Well, you're going to like the way you look. I guarantee it. Men's Warehouse. All right, everyone, let's talk about Gris. Not the musical or the movie, but the game, Gris, that we just learned about. It is a game that is from Nomada Studio, is published by Devolver Digital. There's Devolver, one of Adam's favorite things on the planet.
Love these guys. Yeah.
Game was released December 2018 for Nintendo Switch, macOS, and Windows. Came to iOS in August of 2019. That's where I played it. And then came out PlayStation 4 in November 2019 and Android April 2020. It never came to Xbox. That's wild. Okay. The game has sold over 1 million copies so far. I will also mention that it is critically well reviewed, holding, depending on the platform, anywhere from an 82 to an 84 on Metacritic as well. And it won at the Game Awards in 2019, Games for Impact. It won the award for Games for Impact.
And Fresh Indie Game and Best Art Direction, too.
Oh, at the Game Awards itself?
Yeah.
Wikipedia says it was nominated for those two, but it only won Game for Impact.
Oh, you're right. You're correct. My mistake.
All
My
right.
bad.
Alex, it's been great having you, but we'll see you next time.
See you guys.
I'm just kidding. I purposefully chose a list of games this month, for the month of May, that could be played on a variety of systems, including your phone or iPad, because I had an iPad mini, and I'm like, I want something that can play on this. It's kind of tailored for it. And so that's why we landed on Gris. And Adam was the tiebreaker on it for all of you who voted at patreon.com/respawnaimfire. And he voted on it because I think it was the one that wouldn't make you cry, right?
I don't remember the other option.
It was
By the way,
That Dragon
Gris is on
Cancer was the
Xbox.
other one.
I'm on Xbox.com and Gris is on here.
Okay, good.
Wikipedia's acting funny. I didn't want to play That Dragon Cancer because nope. No, thank you.
The question is, did anyone cry playing this game? Alex? Adam?
You know what? I did not. And that is like no indication of what I actually thought about this game, but I did not cry playing this game.
Adam, did you cry?
I know. I thought it was the story is very impactful, but did not make me cry. specifically. I think the difference being that this is a game about a single person, and Dragon Cancer is about a child dying of cancer. So I think that would have been the difference there. But I do think it is very good and emotional, and evokes emotion. But didn't get these big boy tears to come out.
Everyone knows Adam has the biggest boy tears.
So big.
It takes a lot to open up those eyeballs to get those tears to fall out. I did not cry either. I will be honest with you all that until I read the Wikipedia page today, most of the narrative was lost on me, and I had no idea about it. But that did not stop me from having an incredible time with this game. I knew nothing going into it other than, it's a pretty watercolor-looking game. And I didn't even know it was a platform, a puzzle platformer. I had no idea what I was getting into. But I went into it. I loved the art direction. You'll see in the background here on the video version, we have 103 screenshots, which I whittled down from 163 that I took while I was playing it. Yeah, I took a lot of screenshots. This game is freaking gorgeous. It's also inspired our next 4 wallpapers for our patrons over at patreon.com/respawninfire. We've got 4 of them in the works right now. So I liked it a lot. And then the audio was wonderful for me too. I played with AirPods Max on the ones that I've got on my head right now on my iPad. So overall, really, really enjoyed this game. But I lost most of the narrative. I just thought, there's a girl who lost her voice, Little Mermaid style, and then also she was fractured and now she's whole, and that's all I got.
So I want to just quickly loop back around. Earlier on, we were talking about how this game won the 2019 Game Awards award for Games for Impact. I remember when it won that award, there was a little bit of an uproar online, and maybe this is like very small and contained to like the few people I was paying attention to on Twitter when it got that award. But I remember people kind of being up in arms that Gris nabbed that award, while games that you would think would have nabbed that award, such as the other nominees, Life is Strange 2 or Concrete Genie, didn't get it. To kind of just go down the full list, the other games that were nominated for Games for Impact that year were Concrete Genie, Kind Words, Life is Strange 2, and Sea of Solitude. And it's interesting that, you have a game like Life is Strange 2, which is very explicitly about living in Trump's America. And then you have Gris, which is very much a game that is in large part kind of left up to interpretation. It's about kind of more of a mood and a tone than it is about an explicit story. And yet that's the one that manages to walk away with the award.
Yeah, I don't remember the controversy being there, but I can 100%, having played Concrete Genie, having played Gris now, knowing what Life is Strange is all about, I agree that, I don't know if this would have won a Games for Impact specifically. Art direction? Sure, maybe.
Right.
Soundtrack? Great. But yeah, as far as Games for Impact, I feel like you're right. This is much more of a mood type game rather than an actual making a statement and what I assume Games for Impact would be.
It it is one of those instances where I do wonder if, and I don't mean this in a conspiratorial way, but if the people who are responsible for voting on these games were we want to give Gris something because it is a really exceptional experience. It faces a little bit more stiff competition in the other 2 categories it was nominated for, but here within the Games for Impact category, it's kind of, maybe it's not the one with the most explicit message, but it's the game that delivers on what it's trying to go for with the most subtle execution, the most elegant execution. That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, when it comes to Game Awards, it's kind of more not what do you think deserves the award, but how do you think the voters are going to go? And I can see Gris getting that award based, you're talking about, based solely on what voters are looking for out of that category. So that doesn't shock me. And again, that's not a negative. That's just how award shows
of course.
ran. Yeah, so makes sense.
So I mentioned just kind of my initial impressions. I'm curious. Let's start with Alex. What did you think of the game?
So yeah, like as I mentioned earlier, my only real kind of perception of Greece was from that very kind of small outcry of people who are like, "Huh, it's a little bit weird that this game won the Games for Impact award." Going into it, I got to be honest, I was concerned that I was going into one of kind of many artsy experimental games that I've played over the course of the past half decade or so that are visually stunning, feature a fantastic kind of soundscape of music, but kind of are a little bit lightweight when it comes to gameplay. And what impressed me about Grease was how it wasn't hardly a slacker when it came to gameplay and level design in the end. I was just really kind of impressed by the kind of overall flow and pacing of its levels, the challenges that it threw your way, and how those challenges ramped up and became only more complex as you gained more kind of power ups and abilities. It's not one of the greatest of all times for me, but it is a very solid. If I had to kind of rate this game on like a 10-point scale, it's like a very solid and respectable 8.5, where I was going into it expecting it would be something more akin to like a 7, something that was all style but no substance. And this game really had a lot more substance to it than I was expecting.
I agree with basically everything that you just said. Adam, what about you? How'd you think of it? Or what'd you think of it?
Well, first off, I played this one on my phone because I remember you're going to play it on iPad. I played it on my Android phone just because I was like, hey, let's try something different. So when I first started playing it, I was like, well, first of all, again, game looks gorgeous. There's no arguing that at all. That soundtrack is top tier. I think the soundtrack
Yeah.
is the best thing about the game. It is absolutely great. But I was started playing the game, and I was like, ooh, I hope this game isn't this slow. But I think the game starts you off like barely walking, and I was like, "Oh
Mm.
boy, I hope this is not what the game is." But then things speed up, and I agree with Alex. Like I like the level design, and again, I like all the powers. And again, it just looks great. Like they'll just give you like landscape, like or like in like cinematic shots where it's like, oh, you slid down a thing, and then you pop up, and the sun's behind you, and there's pyramids, and it's all that looks great. Um, and the gameplay I think is like solid, but I did without having like an actual story or a thing to drive me through it. I'm like, I'm driving through this because I want to play the game, but there it didn't feel like anything was really pushing me to do it. So I would still agree with the score. I think about an 8 feels about right, but I expected it to be wild about this game because everyone's like it's great, and I'm like, no, it's very good. Um, so yes, I think it's a very good game, and that's probably where it's at. I think again the soundtrack and the visuals are the top tier things. Gameplay is better than most indie games that are just like super pretty indie games. I'm like, yeah, but gameplay or story didn't blow me away, which is fine. It doesn't have to. I still enjoyed myself for my $5 on my phone, so can't complain too much.
How did you guys find the controls for Gris on your phone? Now even I'm mispronouncing it.
Right? Right?
What was it? Greece?
Grease.
Yeah, Grease.
So I've been worried because I've been experimenting with things on my phone, like playing Fantasian and a couple other things that like it might not control well. And for iPad, I assume it's the same for Android. It was just your left thumb moves the character left and right. You just kind of slide it a little bit, and the right is just tap to jump or tap and swipe down to do the ground pound or tap and swipe up to sing. So it was really, really simple controls, really intuitive. And I also liked, I don't know if they did this on Android, but on iPad specifically, the game didn't take up the whole screen. Like it had a little bit of a black bar, like a black mat around the whole thing so that your thumbs didn't actually cover up the game itself. So I appreciated that a lot because there are some times when I'm playing things where like my thumb is covering up something that I need to read or that I want to look at or something like that. So I did appreciate that part on iPad. But I found that for this game, the movement with sliding the left thumb back and forth worked well because the platforming was not like Mega Man precise. But had it been any more like needing precision, like it would have been worthless on a touch screen. Like you would have had to have a controller with it. So I think for this game, worked really well, and I did not have any issues playing it. But I don't think most other platforms that I've played on console, like Guacamelee or Mega Man or something like that, could use the same controls.
I should have mentioned this at the front. I played it on my PlayStation 5, but it's the PlayStation 4 version because I don't think there's a PlayStation 5 port yet. And I thought it was as you might expect, perfectly comfortable there. But I can see how it would probably work well on touchscreen consoles as well.
I will say last thing about it. This game reminds me when I first started playing it. I didn't mention. I wrote it down in my notes that this feels like a foreign animated film from like 1989, right? Um, and again, if that it sounds like something interesting to you, I think you'd like it. But then there's also the drawbacks of like I don't know what's actually. It's just a thing that's pretty, and I don't actually know what's going on. You know, like this art style. I would like this would absolutely be on like some random DVD I found. Well, wouldn't be a DVD, be VHS. Of like, oh man, look at this cool. It is an indie art movie. The video game, which I think is a good. I think it's a good thing. I would just say like, if any of that what I just said interests you, then absolutely you should play Gris. But yeah, like the gameplay isn't so tight and fast that you can't play it on a touchpad because we did no problem. I did everything no problem at all because it's you move just fast or slow enough and everything works on the sides. But I did very much enjoy it. I actually think it works very good well as a mobile game. So, and it's the cheapest way to get it too.
Yeah, that doesn't hurt the wallet. I like it.
Yep.
I think some of my favorite things, gameplay wise, it unfolds. Alex, you kind of talked about this too, like the fact that the mechanics build on themselves, and I feel like there are two parts of this that I really like. One is that there's no way to die in this game. Like there's no as far as I know, there's no death mechanic at all. You just kind of like you might fall to the beginning of the puzzle and you'll have to start jumping again. So there's not a like frustrating restarting all the time. And then the other thing that I love is that it's difficult enough where like you get to a room sometimes and you're like, how the hell am I going to get out of here? But you never spend more than like 45 seconds to a minute figuring out. I feel like it's challenging enough to keep you interested without being simple enough to get boring. And it's constantly evolving. I think about the first time I realized that it was building on itself in such a cool way was in the forest where you just discovered the color green and you're going through the forest and you're jumping across all these trees and you notice a little guy running behind you, the little square cube guy running behind you. And then eventually he falls down to a lower level and you're up on the top level. And I notice him like jumping and mimicking my movements. I was like, oh, that's cute. He wants to be like me. And then I get to a wall. I'm like, now what do I do? And then I notice that like I have to get him up with me. I was like, oh my gosh, that's so cool. It's like I'm controlling both of us and we have to go through two separate levels at the same time. That's when the first moment was like, this adorable little thing, this amazing little mechanic is actually, it's really clever. I really enjoyed it. So we've talked a lot about music and gameplay and art. And I guess that's all that really. Did anyone actually get gameplay like narrative from this thing? Did you guys understand what it was about? Because I can read a little bit of the synopsis, but I don't think I got it at all.
By all means, like go ahead, because I did not really. I suspected, okay, this is about a woman who is going through some sort of traumatic experience in her life. Her world is like metaphorically and physically shattered, and by going through this trial, she's metaphorically and physically bringing it back together, reconstructing it. That's sort of what I inferred from it. How off was I, or how accurate was I?
Well, I know what the game's about because I was like, well, this is an indie game, so there's definitely going to be a emotional message here. But no, I did know that it was about a thing, but the way, I don't know what you're about to read, the way that they break it down in the game, I'm like, I did not get that from the game, but it makes sense whenever it'll make sense when Chad starts talking about it. It's like, oh yeah, you're right. That is, I knew it was about something, but I wasn't exactly sure. But when someone explains it to you, you're like, oh yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, I'll read a couple. I'll like jump around in the synopsis on Wikipedia, and then I'll read a couple of things from the development part of it that might give you a little bit of context too. The game follows a girl named Gris who wakes up in the palm of a crumbling statue of a woman. She attempts to sing out, but quickly becomes choked up in the statue's hands crumble, dropping her to the colorless earth below. After landing, she continues walking forward and discovers a number of strange structures that seem to be powered by mysterious points of light resembling stars. Gris can travel to 4 locations to collect lights and restore color back to the world at statues resembling the broken one from the beginning of the story. These include windmills, lush forests, caverns. Along the way, she encounters various living beings, some of which help her on a journey, and some of them threaten to consume her. The final power Gris obtains as the ability to sing again, which brings life to various plants and mechanical animals. Gris eventually collects enough stars to form a constellation path to the heavens, but the final pathway is blocked by a creature who morphs into a monstrous form of herself and swallows her whole. She wakes up in a toxic black sludge and swims to the surface. Gris begins singing, and her mother's statue, had no idea that statue was her mother, begins to reform itself through the power of her voice. Just as she's completely consumed by the black oil, the statue of Gris's mother comes alive and begins singing as well, banishing the creature and the sea of despair. From the development part of it here, the people who developed the game, Nomada Studio, wanted the game to be a mix of Journey and Ori and the Blind Forest. It's designed with accessibility in mind, meaning no fail states. It didn't have to be super challenging. And kind of going into what I just said here, it says if there's a puzzle, you can probably finish it at the second or third try. When the puzzle is more complicated, we tend to give the player options. But this part, too, is the part that I didn't get. Sorry, did you have something to say, Cozy?
I'm a little bit surprised that they mentioned that they wanted to be a mix of Journey and the Blind Forest, because I totally get the Journey comparison. Ori, I played through that game for the first time actually relatively recently, and I actually found that game really brutally challenging for its like first half or so. So, I mean, I suppose possibly they mean that in terms of like its art direction. Anyways, continue.
The last thing that I will mention here is that it says, partway through development, the team consulted with a psychologist about the game's narrative themes of grief, especially the 5 stages of grief and depression, resulting in gameplay decisions to echo the turmoil of the main character. An example of this is how at the beginning of the game, the player is unable to jump, which helps reinforce the notion that something is wrong with this girl. I did not get the 5 stages of grief from this at all. I did kind of get an idea that she was like, she's grieving something and there's this darkness and she's learning to like battle it through, you know, learning to sing or finding her voice and that kind of thing. But I did not get 5 stages of grief from this.
Yeah, when you have people explain it, they're like, oh yeah, there are 5, like she goes through every stage of grief, and every like area / power you get represents a stage of grief. And then like the secret ending is like you meet your mother and you're able to like let go, because I guess like it's assumed that like her mother died and she's working through that grief. And then if you do all the collectibles, you're able to like let go and move on, which is very cool. But again, I didn't get that while I was playing. It's really cool when someone explains it to you, but I didn't get that from the game.
Yeah, so the 5 stages of grief, there's denial, there's anger, there's bargaining, there's depression, and then there's acceptance. And don't applaud too much, because I am looking this up on Wikipedia. I feel like if I try to overlay the 4/5-ish areas of the game with those 5 stages of grief, I don't know. So like the first area of the game is like the like dusty desert with the various like windmill contraptions and whatnot. That's supposed to be denial. The forest would be anger. The underwater cavern would be bargaining. And then the like starry like city in the sky would be depression.
I think it's one shifted, because I feel like the color red with all the windmills and the dust storm, I feel like is anger. Especially you get it from the sound design when the dust storm comes in and you get like terrifying organ in there as well.
Maybe the part at the beginning of the game when you're unable to jump, that would be the denial, basically.
Maybe that's it, yeah. And then you know, like making your like the final area before you get the final constellation, like that's acceptance, the part where it's like mirrored. That
would make a lot more sense. And then I feel like the underwater cavern being depression makes sense, because, you know, when you're depressed, you feel down, and you physically in the game are down deep below the earth when you're exploring the underwater caverns. And then I guess for the forest being bargaining, I don't totally get that one, but whatever. I feel like
bargaining is something you do whenever you are wanting to haggle and get a lower price on something. Money is green. There you go.
Okay. Sure.
All right. The color green in the forest. There you go.
All right. Why not?
Yeah, you could shoehorn those things in there for sure. But, like, yeah, it definitely doesn't come across organically in the game itself for me. But still had a fantastic time with it, though. And it's just it's just long enough. Well, I think I spent, 3.5 hours with it. It's just long enough. I don't feel like it outstays its welcome, and I also feel like I I was always wanting more until it ended. I was like, oh, that was a great experience. Glad to close the book on that.
Totally. I will say, not to dip a little bit too much into negativity as we're kind of wrapping things up, I will say, as beautiful as it was, I did find the final area of the game a little touch difficult to navigate at certain points. I didn't feel like the game did as good of a job as it could have of making it clear, hey, these are the areas in this final area that you have explored. Here's where you kind of got to go next. That did slow things down in the kind of final step of that journey for me. Ultimately, still really walked away enjoying it. But if I had to like air a single criticism of Gris, it would probably be that I wish they had fine-tuned that last part a little bit more.
Are you talking about after you get the ability to sing and you have to kind of like revisit some of the parts that you just went to and do them slightly
exactly,
differently?
yes.
Yeah,
exactly.
I agree 100% there. Like, I was like, I don't quite know where to go, but like, it's not keeping me from going back to these spots that I already did. So I guess I'll go back there. And I can't remember. Have I done this yet? Am I doing this over again? Is it worth doing again? I agree with you.
Yeah.
Adam, you want to shit on this game? Anything bad you want to say?
No, I mean, again, I think looking at the game, you're going to know if you like it or not. I think it's very good if this is your kind of thing. If a game not having any narrative, and that kind of a thing is going to bother you, it's not going to be for you. But like I said, I would play it just for the soundtrack alone. Because remember you brought up the Dust Storm when that organ goes like, oh my god, soundtrack is so good in this game. I say it's worth it just for that. But I think it's good. I think you know what you're going to get. I think it's a very good one of these. I would definitely recommend it to anyone who's into it.
Dope. Well, thank you everyone for listening. Thank you to our patrons for voting, making it our BARF game for May. I'm glad I played it. The BARF poll for June, it is May 28th, so we are running out of time. I am going to put that up stat, like right after I finish recording this, right meow. We'll put that up. Go to patreon.com/respawnaimfire if you'd like to vote and tell us what we're going to play in June. And thank you, Alex, for coming on and being a part of the show again right before your vacation. Alex, is there anything, where can people find you? How do they consume your content and follow you?
You can find me on Twitter at Alex Kozina, AlexKozina. And if you want to see what I'm currently up to, if you go to my Twitch account, twitch.tv/CozyBearLive, KOZIBEARLIVE, I recently started doing a playthrough of Pokemon Emerald Cross, which is like a kind of quality of life mod of Pokemon Emerald, doing a Nuzlocke run of that game. As you know, in the past, I did a lot of cooking over on that Twitch channel, and I decided to take a little bit of break from that because cooking took up a lot of time throughout the week preparing for it. And I've really been having a lot of fun with those Nuzlocke runs. So if you like them Pokemons, and if you like to see them die even more, go check that out.
That's everyone's favorite pastime, is watching Pokemans die. All right. Thanks, everyone. Until next time, here's our usual... We don't do usual sign-offs on this one. You're going to get one now. Surprise!